Oh, he hits his 100. What a knock this has been. This boy loves.
Catching the catch. Calum MacLeod relaunched the Jets into the sky with an almighty blow which reached the car park.
Good batting, 4 more. Club leg side, the old-fashioned cow corner.
Today I'm joined by big superstar, somebody I'm proud of what he's achieved in his cricket. Didn't always start out together as best of buddies, but I've followed his career and it's amazing what he's achieved. I'm joined by Scotland national player, ex-Warwickshire, ex-Durham, and now living down in Kent. I'm joined by Mr. Calum MacLeod. Welcome to the show, Calum.
Well, Shaky, it's good to be here. What an introduction that was.
Can we tell the viewers that you actually forgot about this episode today? I had to make a phone call to you at about 6:05 just to remind you that we were going live. So you're the first person that almost stood me up, but thankfully I managed to get you on.
It was all those years of you getting on my case. I thought I might finally get one back on you.
Fair enough. Let's start with that then, Calum. How we know each other. So you started out at a cricket club called Drumpellier Cricket Club in Coatbridge. I played for Clydesdale, and I used to come up against you quite often on a Friday or a Monday night under 15. I mean, you were what age are you now, Cal? How old are you?
31. So I would have been, what, am I 4 years young?
You would have been 11 probably, and I was 15. And this little 11-year-old used to run in and bowl at me and snarl at me, call me names. You had your brother behind the wicket, Alan. And what really used to the biggest memory of playing against you back then was that you boys used to wind me up in Gaelic, which I didn't understand. I have a Scooby what you were saying, but for some reason it used to really get under my skin.
To be honest, I didn't know what I was saying either. I just knew it wound you up. Now they were good days though, weren't they?
They were great.
Some good cricket and playing a few age groups above you. There was obviously some decent players, and Drumps was a great club to grow up at. A lot of the time I was there was always good professionals, which helped me. Mohammed Ramzan being a brilliant example.
Yeah.
Even from a young age, seeing his work ethic and the way he went about preparation and stuff, it's things like that. If you're careful enough, you can see things like that. Mm-hmm. And always, anytime I get a chance to go back and pick his brains, I always take the chance. So it was a great club to start at. Mm-hmm. And then obviously the cricket, playing age groups above, as I'm sure you did when you were younger. I think I probably just tried to find a way to compete. Probably didn't always come across the best way, but I think as a young bowler, trying to bowl fast, that's what you want to do, isn't it? Yeah, you want to run and bowl fast. And I mean, you look at the people on TV and you probably get a bad example sometimes of how aggressive they're trying to be, and sometimes it carries over, doesn't it?
Yeah, no, I mean, looking back now, Calum, I loved it. I mean, looking back, I mean, if you were, my son goes on to play cricket, for instance, I would want him, to stay within the boundaries of the game, but I would want him to play the game aggressive. I would want him to, maybe not quite as aggressive as we were playing it at that point, because obviously we really used to go at each other, and it got a little bit over the top sometimes, but I liked your attitude. You could tell that you had something from a very young age. You had a very competitive streak in you, and there's nothing wrong with that. It obviously stood you in good stead. I'm sure you've matured as the years gone on, as I'd like to think. I've matured if we maybe played cricket against each other now. I think the chat would be a little bit different. It would be a little bit more tactical, not shouting at each other or getting in each other's faces. But it's the story that it's part of the journey, and I look back now and giggle about it. When I think about you just running in, you had really short hair at the time.
Looks like you at the moment.
I know, it looks like me at the moment. I shaved it off in lockdown. This is it actually coming back now. But the other thing I remember fondly is that you had two very loving parents who have followed your career all the way through. I mean, I'm very blessed as well on that front. My mum and dad have always supported my career. I know how much that helps. Your dad's obviously a great photographer, but your mum was always there, always watching the games. That must have had a big part of your upbringing and your cricket career.
Yeah, it's things behind the scenes you don't always see. Like when I first joined the Warwickshire Academy, a lot of their sessions were Sunday mornings. So my mum would get up, she'd drive me down to Birmingham from Glasgow on a Sunday morning for it's probably a 12 o'clock session that would last to 2, maybe 3.
Mm-hmm.
She'd sleep in the car park, I'd do my session, then she'd drive home that night.
It's amazing.
I mean, that sort of dedication to help me along my way, I mean, you can't really repay that apart from trying to work hard and trying to do the right things when you get the chance.
Yeah, no, that really is amazing. I've got similar memories of my mum growing up. She used to drive down to Ampleforth,
Yeah.
made everybody sandwiches if they,
Yeah,
like.
absolutely. I think it's just what parents try and do, isn't it? To try and give us the best chance. And I think most of your guests will say pretty similar things about their parents, to be
Yeah,
honest.
no, if you're lucky enough to have, you're blessed with both your parents in your life. It's amazing. Your dad obviously is a massive cricket fan, as it is. I mean, he's taken some brilliant pictures. One of my favourite pictures your dad's ever taken was I got a good knock against Ireland in Aberdeen, and he's got the picture of me cutting one, and William Porterfield's hands are coming just between my legs, basically. It's a bit random. It looks like I've got 2 arms grown out, but you can't see him. But it's a great picture. I used to always enjoy doing a lap of the ground and bumping into your dad. He's always good value. And obviously, we're going to get on to talking about what this podcast is going to be about today, which is the England game. And it was very nice on Sky Sports that your dad got. The camera went on him quite a few times. When you got to the milestone of reaching 100. So I was really, really happy for him. That's you probably repaying them and some more. We're going on to do stuff like that in your career. They must be so proud. I just want to touch on your stuff that you've done, Calum, along the way. I mean, you've been representing Scotland since 2008. Is that right? No, is that wrong?
Yeah, I think it was 2007, but 2008 is fine.
My bad. We toured South Africa together, World Cup qualifiers. That was fun. We had some fun out there. Had some couple of wee ding dongs along the way as well. Nothing too frantic. But I was talking to Kyle in the podcast. I remember that was kind of the end of your bowling days. We chatted about a game that you played against Oman, and there was a guy that hit you, and it hit the floodlights, and it was still rising.
That's still the biggest 6 I've ever been hit for. I think the ball came down, and I think it hit Ryan Watson's mum in the head or something.
That's right.
Lucky it was the only thing that was going to stop it.
It was travelling.
I should have just given up then.
No, that was pretty much. Well, after that, soon after, you've also then went your early career. You signed for Warwickshire, which was a great achievement to go down south and start your county cricket career. You went on to play successful cricket for Durham. In particular, you did quite well in the T20 for Durham. Unfortunately, you got released from there, but their loss was Scotland's gain. It's meant we've had you for pretty much all the cricket that's taken place. Played in the 2015 World Cup. Must have been a special occasion for you doing that.
Oh, it was an unbelievable trip and occasion. Slightly disappointing one. I think we had opportunities to win games that we didn't take. Personally, I just wasn't batting well. 2015 was a shocker with the bat. So it's probably a little bit, not a regret, but something I'd like to go and play again.
No, I hope you
knowing a little bit more about my own game and knowing myself a little bit more now, to go back and play in that 2015 World Cup would be exciting. But I also think that was a massive moment. Some of the innings, I know you've had Kyle on, but his innings against Bangladesh, I think that was a real moment for a lot of our Scottish batters. Seeing one of our own do that against a Test match opposition kind of probably opened our eyes to actually what we need to be doing a little bit more, instead of being happy with a 50 or a 60 or a 70. Actually, well, if Kyle's gone on and batting like that, then that's the standard we have to try and aspire to. And I think that was a real moment that, certainly in my head, it was a real light bulb moment. Okay, actually, how are we going to get to that standard? Yeah.
No, I mean it was amazing to talk to him about that. He was in another world that day. He could have gone on to get should have got a double 100. He talked about an umpire that helped him get over the line towards the double hundred in a championship game. He needed that umpire that day just to say, listen, you've got 7 or 8 overs here. You can keep going. And it was unfortunate against England. I mean, against England, he was flying as well. And unfortunately, he got out. But if he'd stayed in and got 100 there as well, you never know where that game might have gone. So it's the critical moments in these kind of, at the big stage, it's margins. You can't. And you're right in what you're saying. Where Scottish batters would have been happy getting 40, 50 once upon a time, walking off making 220 we score and saying, oh, we're in a game here. It's great to see the mentality change. If you're going to compete and beat the test playing nations, you boys have raised that bar.
Well, yeah, I think you have to watch what the best teams in the world are doing and then try and find a way of mimicking it. And the game's only going one way, isn't it? It's getting more and more aggressive.
Yeah.
And I think you see that with the batters that we're starting to produce. I think it'll be an exciting few years. I think we'll probably lose a few games along the way, but I think as long as we're trying to do the right things, then we're only going to get better and better.
No, I think your Scottish cricket's going in the right direction. I think that lineup of batsmen, the batting lineup, when we will get to it, we'll talk about the big game. I just want to mention also that you were the ICC Associate Player of the Year in 2018, mate. What an achievement! There's a lot of good players kicking around in the associate countries now. So to get that milestone, you must be very proud.
Yeah, I don't have any memorabilia or anything up in my house. I don't have anything anyway. I've got a couple of stunts that a couple of people have given to me over the time. But that's one that I enjoyed. I've got the little trophy. It's in the house somewhere. I can't exactly remember where, but it was obviously a memorable year. It was a couple of 2 or 3 real good innings that year. And
was that the year you scored 100 against Afghanistan, which I think?
Yeah, that was probably the best innings I've played in terms of preparation, in terms of sticking to a game plan, in terms of everything leading up to it.
Mm-hmm.
Because there'd been a period where I'd scored runs but hadn't kicked on, and it started in Pretoria. We were in a training camp. You've been there, brilliant facilities.
Yeah.
And I'd taken my pads off, and then realised we still had an extra half an hour, 45 minutes left in the session. So, and Richie was hitting some sweeps in the Merlin, and I hadn't played the sweep for about a year and a half. I kept getting out to, and through maybe a little bit, just actually wanting to do something. I put them back on and went, okay, Richie, went back in and just started hitting some sweeps with them.
Mm-hmm.
Didn't ask him; he was just hitting them. I was just watching the way he was playing there, going down, mimicking it, and then finding my own way, knowing that we were going to Zimbabwe and it was going to be spinner friendly.
Mm-hmm.
So that probably started 3-4 weeks in advance, and from that moment, just a bucket from putting my pads on and watching somebody,
mm-hmm.
I just found the way that I was able to do it. So then, leading up to that game, all I did was sweep and sweep and sweep in the nets until I was comfortable with it. And then, a little bit like I alluded to there, you've got to play in a certain way against some of these bowlers, because the bowling, if you're playing, especially mystery spinner, you're playing good teams. You've got to be able to find a way of putting pressure back on them. It's not always, like I say, it's not always going to work. In my way that day and in other games has been sweeping.
Yeah.
Because it's a little bit more of a unique skill to me, and I know that if I'm sweeping well, then I have a method of putting pressure back on the bowler, and that's all it did. But it was that confidence to actually go and do it, and practice it well enough to take it into a game.
No, I mean you're up against a top class spinner in that game, Rashid Khan, as well as a few other good spinners that they have as well.
Nabi.
Nabi. I mean, you scored 100, and Kyle talked about that 100 when I was on with him the other day, and he said, that 100 was spectacular. The way Calum played in that game was phenomenal. I didn't obviously I only got to see a bit of highlights of that game. Wasn't as clear, so we don't really get footage back here of what you actually did in that game. It'd been amazing to see the whole innings. But that leads us on to why I brought you on here today. I've always wanted to have a chat with you about it, so to get to do it over a Zoom call that I'm going to put out to the world after this, I think it's even more exciting. On the 10th of June 2018, Scotland played against England in a game ODI match on a beautiful sunshine day. at the Grange. But I want to take you just a few days back. I want to take you to maybe 3 or 4 days from the game, and just wanted to ask you in general how you prepared for that game mentally, physically. What were you doing with yourself in the lead up to that match?
Training wise, I've got myself into a bit more of a routine. The couple of days leading up to that, I try and train quite hard. I try and do some stuff that I might not normally do, sharpen myself up a little bit. Yeah, some close and credible work or sidearm as fast as they can, just to sharpen up a little bit. Certainly 2 days out, and then the day before, I try and have it as relaxed as possible. I'll go down, I'll go through some drills, practice my sweep, and then I like to stand out in the middle of the wicket and just have it get used to the surroundings, make it feel like it's try and almost visualise what's going to come down at me. And go through the actions, who we might be facing, and just generally get comfortable the day before. And just try and relax. One of the pressures and privileges of playing associate cricket is that playing a team like England's probably one of the least pressured games we'll play. Because we've played games where contracts, where careers, where qualifications on the line. That's
big pressure.
That's pressure. That's bigger pressure than knowing that you've got the possibility to go out and play the one-off ODI against
number one team
in the world.
So nothing to lose, basically.
Nothing to lose, but there was a real focus from certainly Kyle and Grant at the time, just pushing us. Just okay, let's just try and do a little bit more. What can we actually do? How good can we actually be? And set ourselves some quite lofty targets, knowing that if we manage to play in that way, then we're going to challenge teams. And then just the usual preparation that I try and do for most games. We didn't treat it. Certainly, I didn't try and treat it anything else apart from a privilege to go and play a game at Grange where you knew the sun was going to be shining.
With visualisation, you mentioned visualisation there, going out to the wicket and visualising playing certain bowlers. Is that quite something that you tend to do when you're leading up to games? Do you picture how you're going to play and what kind of innings you're expecting?
Yes, it's you know what batting's like. You tinker with things all the time, and I'm not a particularly great netter because I like to net and I hit quite a few balls, but I've always got something else going on. So I end up coming out in nets and I might have been trying a slightly different trigger, or my hand's doing something different, or something, could be anything. So I end up getting more confidence from drills and then going and just visualising and just thinking about innings that I've played before, thinking about what the bowler's going to be doing. Alluded to the Afghanistan game before. Craig Wallace and I sat for ages watching Rashid Khan, just the two of us in his hotel room, just on a computer. In Mujib, and trying to just pick their variations. So then you can go away and you can think about it, and you can try and get that image of what's coming down. So then you've got that split second longer when you're in the middle, and that's certainly what I use it for. To be honest, Shaky, in 2 years' time, it might be something completely different. 2 years ago, 3 years ago, no, it was something different. So, but this seems to be something that really stuck with me. So I hope it stays, and I hope I commit to it. No,
fantastic. That's good to hear your mindset. I mean, I was out in South Africa with you, and that's where you're batting. That was years ago now, but that's where you kind of started working. I remember you in the nets, and you were quite you worked hard at your game, and you tried different things, and I think that showed in this innings. That showed of all that you'd probably, because I mean, on the day you must still pinch yourself. Obviously, everything came together. But I want to go to the morning of the game. So first things first, you're right. Beautiful sunshine. There was no chance of rain, which doesn't happen often when you turn up at a game at Grange. You don't get that privilege. I mean, you're telling me now you live down in sunny Kent, and you get the privilege of probably playing cricket more often than not. Whereas up here, it's a beanie hat, and you know you know, you sit and watch the rain a lot of the time, or you have doubts that you're even going to play the night before. It's quite sometimes it can be quite hard to prepare for a game because you know because the weather's probably going to play a big part. But to turn up that morning, did you have a good breakfast that morning?
Probably had the Holiday Inn special, whatever was on there. Probably a bit of their dry haggis and an egg. And then just got to the ground, and again something that just tried to have a really quiet morning.
Who did you have breakfast with? I know we did that still go.
Honestly, I've got no idea.
I can't remember now.
Well, they were probably all trying to avoid me. It could have been. It was probably Crossy, probably Watty, and Wally. I don't know.
Okay.
But I remember getting to the ground, and we were calm. Everything was calm. People were going about their business. If you'd looked out, it could have been us preparing against anybody.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And you can see what guys. I can tell you what guys. Crossy will be the first into the nets with George. They'll be getting sidearm. Costa will probably have his pads on, try and strap his wrist up. He'll do some hitting there, but you can just tell.
Yeah.
Barrow and I will be sitting, and we'll probably be two of the last out onto the field. You just see the same things, and it didn't look any different. And
yeah, that doesn't surprise me. That part you just mentioned there, Barrow being one of the last out to the field. God, the amount of times I spent waiting for that guy. I'll never ever go on a shopping trip with him ever in my life again. It's a dangerous route.
How long does it take to do his hair?
Well, the hair is bad enough, but I once went shopping with him, and the first store we went into, Calum, he seen a T-shirt he liked, loved it, and I was like, oh, you should get that then. But he wanted to go to 10 other shops just to prove to himself that he wouldn't see a better T-shirt than the first one, and then went back to the first store to buy the T-shirt anyway. I could have.
I just feel perfectionist.
Oh, big time. So yeah, I'm not surprised to hear he was one of the. I think with you though, it's more just like you're chilled. You're quite chilled out. You don't get too worked up. I mean, from my time playing with you, I always found you to be quite relaxed on game day.
Yeah, it's definitely changed since I don't bowl.
Yeah.
Since I got all that happened.
Yep.
Two things. One, it just doesn't work as well when you're a batter.
Yep.
And two, you look back at it and you think, well, what's the point?
Yep.
I'd rather be a little bit more in control of myself, and certainly that morning is trying to control that and just be as calm as possible, because you know that the batting, if you're in control of your thoughts, you got a better chance, don't you?
Yep. No, absolutely. How did you hit them that morning in the nets? Did you feel that you were hitting them?
I didn't put my pads on, didn't do anything, went to the nets, just had some throws from, I think it probably Toby Bailey. Just went through some simple no feet drills into hitting, into moving, just getting my feet moving.
Yep.
Again, just from a conversation I had from somebody, because so I'm going in a lot roundabout way here, but 2015, the year that I told you I did a bad year.
Yeah.
Championship cricket was terrible. Went into the World Cup, shocker. I think I played 10 ODIs, got 50 runs for the year. I mean, terrible.
Mm-hmm.
Went into 2016, still struggling a bit, and my instinct was okay, I'm going to work as hard as I can. Mm-hmm. Every opportunity, I'm going to hit as many balls as I can. So I was turning up for championship games with Durham. I'd be in the nets. I'd be facing sidearm as fast as I can, hitting as many balls as I could every morning of the game, thinking, okay, this is working. I'd come out in nets in the morning of a game, sweating.
Yeah.
Go back to the changing room, shower. I'd be hyped. I'd be ready. I'd be okay. Now's my chance. But I was just drained, and then I remember one morning, Scott Borthwick, brilliant left-hand batter, great timer with a cricket ball. He'd just walk over. Some mornings he'd have a net, other days he'd just have some throws, and he'd just cream some half volleys. And I was like, why do you train like that? Well, he said it so matter of factly, like it was like the most obvious thing in the world. He was like, well, I need to be able to score.
Yeah.
And it was just a bit of a moment of actually, I'm getting too caught up. I'm almost not practicing properly. I'm just practicing a lot, and it was just beating me up and beating me up. So from there, in the days of games, I just said, okay, I'm not putting my pads on. When it's time to play in a game or on game day, that's when I'll put my pads on. I'll do my work before it and try and trust myself that I've done the work and not beat myself up in the days of games. I mean, some days it doesn't work. And then you think, oh, maybe I should have done a bit more.
Maybe I should have done it. Maybe I should have been more intense in the warm up.
There's no right way to do it, but certainly since I went to training that way, a bit more relaxed in a game day, I've had a little bit more success.
Okay. Well, I mean, long may that continue. But you're absolutely right, Calum. There could be one season that works, and then you could have a bit of a bad season, and then you think, all right, I maybe not been getting prepared enough. I need to do something else at warm up. But while it's working for you, mate, keep going with it while it's going well. So the game starts. Let's go into the great game. I get goosebumps, man, every time I watch this game. I honestly could not believe what I'd witnessed that day. But go out to bat. Matthew Cross and Kyle Coetzer opened the batting, and pretty much from early on, first couple of overs, the intent was there that we're here to take you boys on. World #1 team, who, just to clarify, that sometimes they turn up and they bring a weakened attack. That certainly wasn't the case. Mark Wood, David Willey, Adil Rashid, Liam Plunkett, Moeen Ali, probably at that time, pretty much that was their one-day bowling attack. So they've turned up with their proper one-day attack. And, Crossy and Kyle just went about their business. And before you knew it, I mean, we were 103 by the time we lost our first wicket. I mean, you must have been sitting in the hut thinking, this is all right. I'm pretty happy. I'm pretty happy sitting here.
I was probably thinking, how am I going to follow Kyle and Crossy playing like this? Yep. I mean, when those two get going, Crossy's such a natural timer of a cricket ball. The more pace you put on it, the better he seems to look. And then Kyle's, I have said this before, but I don't mind saying it again. It's one thing as a captain sitting there and telling you, we want you to be brave, we want you to go and play like this, and saying it. It's easy to say it.
Yeah.
It's much harder then to say it and then go and be the guy who leads it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I mean, Kyle will go down as one of Scotland's best ever batters, but to me, the way him and Grant, and certainly Kyle's still an advocate for it now, the way he's helped change the mindsets of what we can do has probably been one of his biggest achievements in Scottish cricket, as much as his batting is, and a lot of that's by leading it.
Yeah.
Just being brave enough and also being good enough to go out and play in a way that sets a tone for us that makes our lives a little bit easier, because we're coming in 100 off, what was it, 12 or 13 overs?
Yeah.
I don't know what it was.
I think 12, just over 12 overs. I mean, Kyle does talk about Grant, and when I was talking to him, and he said Grant had a lot to do with that, because he mentioned that Grant used to really challenge him.
Yeah.
Is that something that you, as a leading batsman for the team as well, is that something similar you had with Grant?
Yeah, it probably challenged me differently. He wasn't afraid to. One of the best conversations I've ever had turned out to be one of the angriest conversations I've ever had. He brought me up from Durham in 2016, and I wasn't playing particularly well. I hadn't scored any runs for Scotland. And he dropped me. He brought me up, said I was going to play, and then got to the night of the game. The night before the game, said, okay, you're not going to play, you can go back to Durham if you want. Of course, I'd missed the chance to play for Durham to come up, so I was a little bit annoyed.
Yeah.
And we made each other's feelings pretty clear in a hotel. It was probably what I needed at that time. It probably didn't go about it the right way. I certainly lost my temper a little bit. He didn't. He kept his cool for most of it.
Yep.
And then gave me some truths about the runs I'd been scoring, about how I was trying to claim I should be playing because I'd scored some good 30s for Durham.
Yeah.
And he was like, well, that's just not good enough. And he just laid it down to me. And I drove away and I was pretty angry. And then the more I thought about it, the more it was right. It's got to be a currency, and you got to score your runs. So
I quite like that as well, because too often we used to pick players just because they had a county contract, and that shouldn't be necessarily that. But previous times I used to find that players used to come and play for Scotland, and the players in Scotland would maybe miss out because of a county contract. But the message there seems to be that just because you're playing at Durham and you got 30, it's not good enough. I want more from you.
Yeah, no, it was also more the fact that I thought I was doing well enough, and he completely. You're right. Players have got to earn their place, whether they're living in Edinburgh and Stockbridge, or whether they're living in Kent or the other side of the world. If they are committed to playing and they are putting in performances, then they deserve to play. If they're not, well, then they don't. And that's the business we work in.
Yep.
And I was probably missing that slightly, and he told me pretty straight that I just wasn't doing well enough, so I had to go away and think about that. And he challenged me with that, and he was always challenging me to just be a little bit. Could it be a bit more aggressive? Could it be a little bit more expansive from earlier? And it obviously find a way of working. But I think Kyle played a big part in that as well.
No, that's good to hear. Coach and captain having that influence on the boys, and that's obviously where the confidence came from. But you're absolutely right. For Kyle to go out and absolutely smoke 58, pretty quick time. I remember one shot in particular, 58 off 49 balls. You know, that sent a clear message. Matthew Cross, 48 off 39 balls. You know, things were motoring. And Kyle, I spoke to him about this. They brought Adil Rashid on. Now, the wicket was obviously flat. That doesn't take away the fact that he still got to score the runs. But Adil Rashid obviously came on and changed things up a little bit, and he removed Kyle with a pretty good nut, to be fair. And then you strided out to the crease, but pretty quickly Cross got out. So the game just, typically it can happen sometimes. You're flying along, and before you know it, we had two new batters at the crease. That's a crucial time. I mean, if we lose another couple of wickets there, that's it. We're going to struggle to put something massive on. So what was the mindset like? I mean, first of all, as you walked out to bat, how are you feeling?
You're pretty. You switch yourself on. You go out there, and I've got my little routines that I like to do, and I scratch a couple of marks that I'm comfortable with, and then you go out there. And I remember talking to Crossy about the wicket, and he was just saying it's an absolute belter. Let's get a partnership. The runs are there, because the boundaries were small as well, but it's tough not to walk in with a bit of confidence.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm quite a nervous watcher, and then nervous until I get out to the middle and I'm about to face my first ball.
Mm-hmm.
But going out there and seeing the way they'd played, knew that it was a pretty decent wicket, so there shouldn't have been too many demons in the wicket. Probably filled me with confidence, apart from, I think I nearly ran myself out third or fourth ball. Johnny Bairstow had a free shot at 3 stumps and missed them, thankfully.
Thankfully. Very thankful to hear that. I didn't remember that play.
And then when Crossy got out, Barrow coming to the wicket was brilliant for me. He's a guy who just knows my game, and we've played so much cricket together now that, and probably having that little bit more experience, that we were able to take a little bit, not a little bit of time, but a little bit of, okay, let's absorb a little bit of pressure. And then he certainly hit one of the spinners straight back over the head. I think he might even hit them both. He hit 1 for 6, 1 for 4. And then it got to the stage where I'd probably faced 15 or 20 balls, starting to get a sense of the wicket. We'd got a little bit of calmness back, and the conversation started to turn around. Okay, I'm going to have to sweep. And he'd helped draw the shots out of me. which is how a good partnership works. And probably we've had some really good partnerships, and I think that helps. Having somebody there who's played so much cricket, somebody you trust. If he says, "Okay, I think it's time for you to maybe look at putting a bit of pressure on them, look at using your sweep," or I might even say, "Okay, I might look at reversing." He'd probably, "Okay, why don't you go to the sweep first? Go to your stronger one first?" And you get that sense of trust that if he's seeing it like that, then that's fine. I'm gonna trust what he's saying. And then once I started sweeping and got the pace of the wicket, it felt quite a comfortable shot to play.
Yeah, I mean, you were up against two proper spinners, Moeen Ali and Adil Rashid. Both have been playing one-day cricket for England for a long time. Both smart bowlers, but you just kept. I mean, what impressed me that day was you swept down, and when you wanted to, you swept up. I mean, that must have taken. I mean, to sweep up the way when you're clearly then going for a six. You know, that takes a hell of a lot of confidence, because if you miss hit, normally when you sweep, you'd maybe think sweep down is safer if I hit it clean, which you were doing that day as well. But the confidence came that much that you decided to go aerial in a couple as well, and you smoked them out the park. Where was that? Where was that coming from?
I suppose that's the confidence of once you get in your innings. It's like giving away too many secrets. I like to pick different areas of where I'm going to try and sweep it, and I look at where the field is and what sort of sweep might bring the best, whether it's a flat sweep or whether it's a finer sweep.
Yep.
And then I'll try and use my wrists for that. The aerial sweep that Morgan had just changed the field to have quite straight mid wicket out at Cow, quite a fine deep 45 or deep fine leg almost. And he had his square leg up, so I thought, well, I'm actually more looking just to chip it over him. And then knowing that if you time it well, then always remember to again, I think I pick a lot up just from chatting to people. People probably get bored of me asking questions about batting, but when it becomes your hobby and your livelihood, then you want to try and get as much information as you can. Remember,
I love it, mate. I love it. So chat away.
Yeah.
I'm like a badger here right now. I'm loving this chat.
Yeah, I was. Tony Frost, the Warwickshire wicketkeeper and batter, came back one year and had a brilliant year, the Champo, after being released for a year. And it was a year I was travelling around and doing 12th man. A brilliant sweeper of the ball.
Yep.
And just chatting to him, and I remember him saying one day that he had the mindset of trying to hit it for one, and then if it's in the right spot, you'll hit it for four anyway.
Okay.
And it's kind of almost taking the risk out of it. Because obviously with any cross-batted shot, there's an element of risk of it skimming under you or your top edge or something. But almost take that risk out, and if it lands in your spot, then much like you might hit a cover drive in different areas, you can do that with your sweep as well. So I've always had that mindset, and when I get confident with it, then I'm willing to play it. I mean, there's been games that I wish straight off the top of the head, West Indies game in the qualifiers, I wish I'd gone to it earlier there, or played it and been a bit more proactive with it there. So it's not to say that you get it right all the time.
Yeah,
but
no, I mean, you'll probably
when you get confident enough to play it, and the wicket and the situation allows it, then I want to use it. And I want to play it in that way.
Yeah, I mean, you'll probably find. I'm not trying to jinx you, but you'll probably find you'll play the sweep at some point later in your career, and you're going to get out playing the sweep.
Oh.
It can happen, but I think on that day, your game plan. I mean, I watched back through some of the highlights before speaking to you just to refresh my memory, and you also used your feet to Moeen Ali. You came down the wicket to him at some points, and you put him over mid wicket. Was that because he was changing it up a bit, knowing that you were playing sweep? Was that just to really put the pressure back on him that this guy's not only sweeping me, but he's prepared to use his feet as well?
Yeah, that was a bit more of an unusual shot for me, because it might come. I think a lot about my batting. I can't do what George and Kyle and Beryl do and stand there and just smoke it.
Yeah.
I find that really difficult.
Yeah.
A lot of my batting's a little bit more thinking about, okay, what's he going to do? How can I counter that? I find that works better than just standing there and trying to hit it the way those guys hit it. And again, it was reacting to a field change. Morgan, because after they'd hit it over mid wicket, he then just squared everything up. He had the guy there, he had the guy at square leg, he had two behind there. So the biggest gap in the field was now straight mid wicket. And I thought, well, if I get anywhere near it, I can clip it. And even if I'd mistimed it because of where mid wicket was, I thought it's a pretty safe shot.
Yeah, you didn't try and hit. You did. I remember the shot. You didn't try and hit it too hard. You just kind of caressed it. But you
and it's not
timing it really well.
Yeah, it's not a shot that I go to often. I mean, I've been trying to work and coming down the wicket and hitting it like that for a while. And it's something I spend half my life in the nets asking Watty and Hamza what length I think I can do it to. Okay, can you see me coming? And again, it probably comes back to where I think I'm a pretty bad netter because I'm always trying to work on something. But again, on that day, it seemed like the right shot. The percentages were in my favour, so you have to go and play it.
Yeah.
There's no point waiting and over when the wicket's that good and you know the batting they've got lined up.
Yeah. No, it's interesting to hear you talking about the way you were manipulating the field there. I think that shows the class of your innings that day, that you're watching what the opposition captain's doing, and you played with him that day. You know, you played around with the field, and he must have been pulling his hair out, Morgs, with the fact that you were doing that. But that's very smart batting. I mean, you're right in what you said there. Then you and Richie coming together was crucial, because two senior batsmen at the crease in a time where a lot of the good work could have slipped away. If you lose a couple of more wickets, you put the pressure then maybe on a couple of the younger boys coming in after you. But what you and Richie were able to do was take the score on to 200. Again, and I remember it, you kind of consolidated for a few overs, but then you counter-attacked again, and you came hard at them, and we got to 200 pretty damn quickly. Plenty of time left. Richie gets out at that point. I'm just going to. I've got a reasonable memory, but I'm not. It's not. Richie gets out for 39 at that point. You know, good consolidating innings. But the fact that you were going so well probably makes that knock even better, because he didn't try to overdo it. He just kind of batted with you and let you kind of go. And it was a crucial part of the game. So the third wicket falls in 200 exactly, 30 overs into the game, 20 overs left to go. Then that brings out another very talented batsman who I think has been a shining light for Scottish cricket coming in. I mean, in T20 he opens up and he whacks it, and he comes in at 5 in this game, and that's George Munsey. And then, you both just go about setting about another 100 plus partnership, which is, phenomenal. You and Richie put on 93, and then Munsey comes in, and you put on over 100 there. Talk to me about that partnership. That's when it really started. I mean, things really started. You started doing some special things. Munsey was doing some special things. I remember quite well. You started using your crease to the seamers really well. I mean, is that something you've been working on leading into it?
Yeah, well, the way Munsey stood, that whole little period probably shows where our mindset is. Beryl gets out trying to hit Plunkett over the top on 39, where I'm sure it's probably harsh another. Certainly, I know at some stages in my career I might have looked just to get 50 there. He had no thoughts of that. He wanted to hit it and continue the good work we were doing.
Yep.
Brilliant sign of where our mindset at. And then Munns comes in. And I think he reverse swept Mo and Ali third or fourth ball.
That's right. Yeah. I love that. I love that arrogance. I mean, that's what you want to see. You want to see Scottish players doing that. It just it fills it. Couldn't believe it when he did it, but it was bloody good to watch. I mean, the confidence to do that is just brilliant. So I mean, he does that, and it was like the English boys just at that stage. What did you sense the atmosphere was like out there? Because they must have been a bit shell shocked.
I mean, the noise level was brilliant. The crowd that day was phenomenal.
4,000 people. That's
Yeah,
pretty
but
impressive.
in a bowl, and Grange is small in the bowl,
Yeah.
and you're right on top of you. And I think they probably were a little bit shell shocked. I don't know how much homework they've done. I don't know whether the new ones was going to turn around and hit his second ball right-handed for 4, and then another one 2 balls later. But his skill level, and wasn't just the spinners he took down. He stands there and he looks to hit the ball hard, and I think that's quite a good balance to our team. Is that we've got guys who stand there and smack it, and I play slightly differently to them. So it probably gives them, if we get in a partnership at all, then we play the game in different ways.
You're more of you manipulate the ball.
Probably a little bit more, and I've probably got a touch more license to bat through the innings than some of these guys. Than probably George in that lineup, and even the guys up the top who've got a real defined role to go out and just smack it. I think Bear and I are giving a little bit more. We're giving a little bit more license to play it the way we've seen it. But it felt at that time. I don't know the stats of the partnership, but it felt like I was okay. I was just going through like in the middle years. Trying to get Munsey on it and just allowing him to do his thing. Of course, you got to keep the boundary rate up, and you got to keep the scoring rate up. But it certainly felt that his innings. I think that was his first ODI 50. That might be wrong, but I think that's right. And it was good to see that, and you could see the confidence that's gained from him, the way he's played this year, the way he's gone to a couple of franchise tournaments now, and he's 100 during the summer, last summer against, I think it was Holland. It was breathtaking. Just sheer ball striking, and that's exciting.
He's good that he's left-handed. Good that he's left-handed as well, because it just gives you it changes things up a bit. Having him come out at that point just to change things up, and having the left-hander coming into bat with the right-hander who's set, that would have tested the English bowlers again. Doesn't matter who you are, what level of cricket when you're under pressure, you're under pressure, and it looked like that watching that day that the English boys, and even looking at the captain Owen Morgan, he was starting to really not know, what's the best formula here. These boys are just, they keep coming at us. They're not backing off. And obviously, you then go on to, get to 300 plus. Munsey gets out. That brings Dylan Budge to the crease, who obviously was a total newbie in the Scotland team. He'd done quite well in some regional stuff, and he'd been given his chance to come into the Scotland team, and he's landed a dream position in an ODI against England. And what he'll always be remembered for in that game is running, because I don't know who was on commentary at the time, but it might be Nasser Hussain, and the ball gets hit out, and he says, Dylan Budge, you've got to get back, and he was back no problem. Like, he strolled it back, and you get to your 100. Tell me the feeling of reaching that milestone in front of a packed 4,000 people, packed house in front of Grange. You would have grown up playing so much cricket at the Grange. Your dad's in attendance. So many friends from club cricket even would have been in attendance that day, who you've grown up playing against, know so well. What a feeling that must have been.
Yeah, it was brilliant. I think you can see I've got a big smile on my face, and I'm pleased personally. I'll go on it, and I suppose we'll go on about it later as well. Just the way the crowd reacted the whole way through the game, seeing passion like that, and seeing people celebrate my success, and seeing the teammates knowing fine well that they're delighted for me as well. I don't know. When it's you doing it, it's funny to really know what you're feeling. If I was watching somebody else doing it, I'd probably know the exact feelings. But
yeah, I know, I can understand what you mean there. You probably, it's hard to put into words, I'd imagine.
Yeah, a little bit, and I mean, the boys take the absolute mick out of me for this, but you know, I knew where I kind of semi knew where Dad was, and made sure I gave him a bit of a
Good on you. Good
smile.
on you. Yeah, good on you. He got. I'm sure he's got the perfect picture. I mean, you were all smiles. You were
I was probably out of focus.
facing. No, I'm sure he got it right. I'm sure he was snapping away, and the camera went on him, and they said, that's Calum MacLeod's dad, and he looked over the moon, but he looked like he was probably in a bit of like I don't know. Probably adrenaline was going through him as well. That it would be interesting to speak to him actually and hear how he felt at that time. With what his son had just done, he probably couldn't believe it himself. No, I'm not believe that you couldn't do that, but just didn't probably wake up that morning thinking I'm going to be snapping pictures of my son celebrating 100 against England at the Grange. I mean, but great moment for him. Great moment for all the family.
Yeah, and they were all there, which was quite nice. Oh, Neil might not have been actually, but yeah, it's just nice to. He'll probably tell you it was just another picture, but I know deep down that he would have enjoyed it.
I'm sure that picture's been enhanced and tapped around with.
Enhanced, what you say?
If you're listening, Donald, I would love to see your final. I think I've seen a good few of those pictures. The picture, to be honest, but it'd be nice to get sent the actual picture that your dad took. And if you've not got it already, then you should have that framed, Calum, and up on your wall. That's one.
Probably, my brother's got it framed for me for Christmas, but it's still not up yet.
Okay.
Like I said, I haven't quite got the room yet to put everything up yet.
Okay.
It's a work in progress. The garden shed's going up soon.
I'm hoping there's a couple of big contracts that are going to come your way in the next couple of years, and I'm sure you can in later years you can have plenty of space to put up all your memorabilia.
Oh no, I just need to put a garden shed up for it.
Okay.
Not like that. I don't want them in the house.
You don't want them in the house.
No.
It's very, it's. I'm going to be a bit of a badger here. I scored 200s for Scotland, one against Ireland, one against Kenya. I've got them both up, Calum. Yeah. But my missus did say to me recently, she did say, like, is there any chance I can get a picture up there? I was like, yeah, of course you can. So I think one's going to come down. I think I'll probably take the Kenya one down because it's a bit out of focus, to be honest. So going on then, Budge gets out quite late on. He literally just ran in that partnership. I mean, he gets 11, but you at that point, after you got 100, you just went into a different world. You obviously scored you ended up, Calum, scoring 140 off 94 balls. So you scored your next 40 runs in about 24, 25 balls. And I remember you were just smacking everything over mid-wicket at that point. You walked across your stumps a couple of times. You lapped a couple. Is that safe to say at that point you're just like, this is my time now? It's my time to enjoy this now. Was that look like a really enjoyable time?
Yeah. I think that's something that we are actually very good as a squad, as a team, is enjoying being out in the middle.
Yeah.
Because you get plenty of times where you get nothing, so you go and sit down, you have another coffee.
Yeah.
So when you're out there and it's your day, go out there, enjoy it, play aggressively, play with a smile, and when you're on 100 plus, then it again, like I said, I'm still thinking a lot. I'd like to be able to stand there and just hit it out the ground, but even those shots over cow and mid wicket or scooping, a lot of it's semi-calculated risks, even at that stage, and probably helped having Dylan at the other end, who is rapid, and I mean he's going to be an exciting player for us. His work ethic and the way he goes about it.
What I remember about him that day was his fielding. He did phenomenally well on the boundary. I mean, he stands out. Obviously, he's got the long flowing hair, but he shifted between the wickets. And you're right, that did probably really helped you at that point because you continually kept getting on strike, and that must have really frustrated England. Yeah,
well, obviously it's whether it was just the way it happened or whether it was good cricket sense from Budge that he knew that was the time to get me back on strike and try and max amount of balls that I'd face. unlike Leesky when he came in and just hit
Well,
first ball for six.
that's what I was going to get to. I must have talked about this so many times, but this is another big moment for me. Watching on as a fan now, supporting the Scottish team. Michael Lees stalks out to bat, hits Mark Wood over long off for six first ball.
You know what he said to me?
Growing up, Calum, I mean, you've been playing. I remember you played a game against England when you're very young days. You might remember it on a dull day at the Grange. I think Gav Hamilton got 60 maybe that day.
Yeah.
You know, you go out in these kind of games. I played against Australia in an ODI at the Grange, and it was like, right, lads, let's try and get 250 here. You know, we'll be. There was nobody thinking about going out to hit the first ball for six. So, you know, at least
I'm not sure he did.
First ball for six. Just again, that must have just dampened. The English boys must have just been thinking, what? I mean, it's a good wicket, but what in the hell is going on? This guy's just stoated in. And I remember, I think you had a bit of a smile on your face as you were kind of walking by Leeds. He was like, go for it, mate. Like, you enjoy yourself. That was some shot.
Some shot. The amount of times he hit his first ball for six in any cricket is phenomenal. But the reason I'm laughing, I probably had a smile on my face. I remember he walked in, he went, like he does, he was pretty excitable with Leesky. He went, all right, I'll get single, get you back in strike. I was like, good plan, all right, mate. Walked down, just cleared it, hit it 100 metres for six. That's why I was laughing.
I remember his face, the camera went on his face, and he was like, he's quite a fidgety guy, and he was just like, oh, all right, okay, that's all right, okay.
I was like, what happened to getting one?
What happened to getting one? Well, sorry, mate, it was in the arc, and I fancied it. So I'm sure you weren't complaining, because at that point you were probably starting to get, you know, quite tired. You know, you'd done quite a bit of running, hot day as well, and you must have maybe started to get a little bit fatigued at that point. So for your mate to come out and hit a six first ball just to take that emphasis off you for a ball or two, happy days.
Yeah, it was brilliant. Especially, I think the over before Woody bowled a really good over at me. He'd out-thought me. And then I think that was the last over of the game. It was the 50 overs. Mm-hmm. Obviously, it would have been nice to get back in strike, but I didn't take many off the over before. So for Leesky just to walk in, hit it for six, it probably just gave us that little bit.
Yeah, Leesky, I mean, Leesky, he gets 10 off 4 balls, just what you want. Just
momentum going into it.
Just what you want at that stage. So you walk off the park, standing ovation, 140 not out against England. Come on, mate, you must be pinching yourself even now. You must have been, that stuff dreams are made of. You growing up as a kid, all those years ago, snarling at me at Coke Bridge. And I'll be honest, I thought you were a talented player, Calum, but I never thought I would see you go on to do something like that. And now I just, you know, I hope we go on. I hope you take the confidence from this and go on and do some spectacular things for Scotland, because, you know, it's not many Scottish players have had the chance. Will get that chance or ever get that chance to perform like that.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I do. It's tough to really know what to. Like as I said before, when it's you doing it, it just feels like you're doing what you're supposed to do a little bit. Okay. Don't get me wrong. I'm incredibly proud of it.
If you're supposed to score 140, mate, off 90 odd rocks every time you go out to bat.
You know what I mean. You know what I mean. It's never. I suppose it's a little bit more of how I got to batting. I mean, I look at the guys in it, and you can probably tell. I look at the guys in our lineup and the guys we come up against, and I just look at guys with more shots. I look at guys who can play off the front foot, play off the back foot better than I can.
Yeah.
Some of them who can hit the ball out of the park at will. And I look at these guys in training, and see them in games, and just think that's on a different skill level to some of the stuff that I can do. But I found my own little way of competing and finding a way of scoring runs, and when it works, it seems to be pretty decent.
Yeah,
I think that's more of it, is that I know deep down that I'm an angry fast bowler who can never quite get there.
Yeah. Well, you're a leading ODI batsman now. I want to talk to you then. You walked in. Adrenaline's got to be pumping at that point. You've come off, you know, standing ovation, got into the changing room. Must have been a few few boys patting you in the back, a couple of hugs going around. Obviously, you've still got a big job to do, and at that point, obviously now you really believe probably that we can beat England here today, boys. We can do this. So was it kind of a well done, but come on, lads, we can. I can imagine it was the boys were all coming together.
Yeah, I don't think anyone would want to hug me the way I was sweating. Yeah, there was well done. So there was a quiet confidence. I mean, 370 is never going to be an easy chase.
Yeah.
But they've got Bairstow, they've got Hales, Roy, Morgan. I mean, that's batting. On a good deck.
You also know the wicket and the outfield and the ground you've just batted on, so you know very well that they're going to probably come bloody hard at you. It was interesting. I've actually, it's not out yet, but I've done a recording with Safi already as well, and he said we were expecting them. We were going out there knowing they're going to. So we talked about the fact of stay calm, just stay calm, stay in the game. And that's what really pretty much went down in that innings. I mean, they came hard at you, they smashed you very hard up top, and then you get Watt, who is another boy that I'm really impressed with as a young cricketer coming through. I think he's obviously going to be a great success. I think he's somebody that can probably still go and get a county contract again as well. I know he's had some time at Lancashire, played a bit of Derby, but you would think somebody will have a look at him. But he, for a young boy in that occasion, gets Roy out, first wicket, which obviously lifts the spirits a little bit because the crowd had kind of been silenced. Watching on, I was watching the game on TV. You're sitting thinking, are they just going to?
Are they just going to cruise it?
They're just going to cruise this. I mean, they were going
cruise 370. They should have.
Ridiculous as it sounds, but it was looking that way. So when Roy gets out, things just slowly start to. I mean, we start to slowly get some moments. The big moments, obviously, Bairstow. To be honest, I know he got a fantastic 100, but he gives his wicket. He gives us a lifeline.
Yeah, I think that it comes down to the way you're expected to play as an opener.
Yeah.
If he'd got out an 80 playing one of the big shots he played there, then you might have said, "Oh, there was an easy 100 for him in the game there."
Yeah.
I think maybe if Root had played like that, whose role is probably slightly different. I don't know. I'm guessing at their roles here, but if he'd got out doing that, then there might have been a bit more of a. Well, he's probably thrown it away, but Bairstow was striking the ball.
Yeah, ridiculous.
I mean, that's the innings we'd still speak about it. Okay, how's he hitting that? I still watch.
105 off 59 balls, 12 fours, 6 sixes, strike rate of 177.96. Well played, lad. But when he gets out, the score is only so Roy gets out at 129, and we get Bairstow at 165. And that was off, our pal Richie Berrington. Hits one down to Monday, good catch. And then, again, they have a partnership that takes them to 220. And that is where the game changes, because at 220 for 2, they're strolling it still. They've got Joe Root and Hales at the crease. Plenty of batting to come. And I'm personally sitting on my sofa thinking, well, this is a bit frustrating. Like, what a first innings. So this looks like they're going to stroll this. And this is where you boys, you all should be proud as a team that you changed the game around. And you know what? You never looked like, Scotland boys never looked like they stopped believing. You stayed calm and you kept coming. And the game totally changes. They go the 220 for 3. Joe Root and Hales have a bit of a moment, and Joe Root gets run out. 245. Morgan gets out, and then 245 again. Hales cuts one to point, and before you know it, it's game on again. 5 for 245, and you're thinking we're going to win this. That's it now. It should be. I mean, you can never get too far ahead of yourself, but you're feeling confident again that right, we should dictate this game. That wasn't the case either, because then the next bunch, Moeen Ali. David Willey, Sam Billings gets out. Sam Billings 263 for 6. David Willey gets out 276 for 7. And then you don't get another wicket again until 3:47, and that was obviously when Moeen Ali and Liam Plunkett just started tonking yous all over Grange. And it was like, what's going on here? This is so cruel. It just seemed like if they get this now, it will just be cruel. And Moeen Ali had you call it a bit of a brain explosion, but fair play to Mark Watt for giving it a bit of air and testing him. He puts it down long on's throat. And again, there's a glimmer of hope. And the big moment I think that people should always remember again is Michael Leask, long on boundary, running round, one pick up on the motion, straight over the top of the stump. Safi takes it and runs out Adil Rashid. And again, fantastic moment. Kyle's talked about this in the podcast and said that these things were things you'd worked on a lot leading into it. Michael Leask gets a run out that he takes it in front of the stumps and takes it back, and Kyle said you've been working on these things.
Yeah, I think the one Kyle obviously spoke about that and getting the Leaskey run out for Rashid's brilliant, because you've been to the Grange, down in that bottom corner it's bumpy. It's tough
bumpy,
work down there. To pick it up cleanly, knowing he's under pressure, and a brilliant throw, brilliant bit of fielding. Slightly underrated one. It's a small thing, but it's Evo's catch at backward point.
Yeah.
He probably a year before had just decided, okay, if Beryl was bowling, I'm going to stand at backward point.
Right.
And he'd stand and he'd do backward point practice with Beryl nearly every training session.
Yeah.
I remember thinking sometimes,
what is he doing there?
Yeah, well, you're a big fast bowler. You hear that's your spot, and he was adamant. He wanted to try and do something when Richie was bowling instead of just being out the boundary, because he knew he was going to be in the ring. So he took it upon himself to try and practice backward point.
Cool story. So that was even that was rehearsed. Then it wasn't just like a bit of a panic moment, right? Because when he takes a catch, I was thinking at the time, Big Ali Evans at backward point. That's interesting, but there's a story behind that as well. Then
it's probably one that probably goes a little bit underrated, because it's not a big thing. It's just a small little 1%er that somebody's just taken it upon themselves to do. I could be wrong. I can't imagine Kyle and the coach and Evo sitting down and saying, okay, I'm going to learn to be a backward point. I'm pretty sure Evo's probably just taken that upon himself.
Yeah.
And it was a good catch. He was close.
It was good.
He hit it hard.
Still travelling that. It was a decent cut.
So there's all those bits that you see, and then what his wicket. I mean, what his best attribute in my eyes, I mean, when he's not getting hit for six all the time, is his cricket sense. I mean, he's got the right amount of attitude. He's absolutely brilliant. I remember the first time I never met him, played him in a regional game. Going a long story around for why I think what he is a very good bowler. Mm-hmm. Played against him, never met him before. He was probably a 17-year-old. He got me out sweeping.
Right.
This was on a Sunday regional game. Never spoke to him. Next morning, Monday or Tuesday, we're training. First thing he ever said to me, "You're going to practice your sweep tomorrow, mate."
Love that, good lad.
And I was like, yeah, okay, I like that.
I like that.
And ever since then, he's just, because you'll hate me for saying this, he's not a massive turner of the ball, but his sense of when a batsman's coming, do I need to bowl it quicker? I'm going to bowl a Yorker, or actually, am I going to be brave enough to actually just take the pace off? Mm-hmm. It was a little bit hit or miss, and it's easy to see brave batting when you're batting. Sorry, but that was just brave and probably something in him just saying, okay, this might work, and that's the mental side of reading a game, which I think can go a little bit underrated over the skills of somebody who might.
A guy before him, he played with a spinner before him that was excellent at that as well. Yeah, Majid Haq, who was really, really, really wide, just really good at reading a situation and knowing when to drag it back a little bit or knowing when to bowl it a bit. He was we called him. He was nicknamed Magic for a reason. He was very smart with the way he would. I mean, I had a podcast with Paul Sterling yesterday, and he talk, you know, it was interesting to hear a perspective of an Irish player. I've done one with John Mooney as well, but Paul Stirling in particular talked about a lot of the Scotland players, and he talks about you as a tear away quick. Do you remember that under-23 European Championship game we played against him? And he came out, we'd never seen him before, 16-year-old at Meikle, and he came out and smashed it for 100.
Smashed me everywhere.
Yeah, I think he put you through the window. But you need to tune into that episode. It'll be out probably early July. But it's so interesting to listen to him because he reckons that innings made him the player he was, because before that he'd never. I mean, he goes on to score many great hundreds, but it was interesting to hear how much respect he puts on that innings, and he talks about you, Gowdy, and Sean Weeraratne. And I don't want to give away too much because I want the listeners to hear the story, but it's a really good insight. But just on Mark Watt there, 10 overs, 3 for 55. That's bloody good going on a game like that. I mean, everybody else went at 7 plus 9, 6, 7, and none of them should be ashamed of that on a wicket like that. But Watt went at 5.5 and over.
How do you equate that to batting? How much runs is that? I mean, that's 100 plus. I mean,
that's 100 plus on a day like that. That's easily 100 plus. I mean, if I look at the English bowlers' figures, none of them went for less than 7. No, sorry, one guy went for less than 7 and over, and that was Moeen Ali. He went for 6.5 and over. So Mark Watt, along with you, is probably man of the match that day. I mean, you've got to obviously get the man of the match. He scored 140, but bowlers sometimes get a bit of a hard.
Oh, absolutely.
If you don't get 5, you don't really get recognised. But 3 for 55.
Don't worry, he tells me every time I see him
that he should have got the man. Then obviously the big moment, Calum. Safi had toiled away all day. He went for 71 runs in his 9.4 overs up until that moment. And I had a podcast with him, and he talks about that moment, what they discussed. But it's like a Shoaib Akhtar moment, for instance, growing up. Like a Shoaib Akhtar bowl in-swinging Yorkers. In-swinging Yorker to Mark Wood, there was no doubt it was plumb. Hits him in the full. You've got to take that as it's going straight.
Yeah.
It's given. How's the feeling at that point? That's where you probably were able to let out all your emotions at that point.
Yeah, what a brilliant delivery. Especially, like you said, it'd been tough for the bowlers all day, and to produce a moment like that. And I mean, Mark can bat. He's not a mug. He's probably got test match 50s and might even have first class hundreds. I don't know. So he can play.
Yeah.
And it was just a perfect delivery. And I've always said there's 2 things that really stick with me in that day. The pitch invasion being one of them. I mean, have you ever seen that? Have you ever seen that?
I mean, it was great to watch. It was quite funny because some of you were hugging each other, but then you would turn around and not realise that you're hugging a fan. Yeah. And it was great viewing.
And absolutely brilliant. And to see that passion, see that enjoying the moment of Scottish cricket doing something quite good over a long period in a tight game. I mean, if we turned up, been bowled out, and they knocked it off, fine. If we turned up, got 370, they tried to chase it and got bowled out, it would have been okay. Well, Scotland played well, England didn't bat that well.
Yeah.
But for it to be a close game, to go that length, and then for us to win some key moments and then lose some key moments, and then in the final moment take an opportunity, and the crowd are up like that. I mean, it's been years in the taking. It's been years in the making, and there's been lots of players who've played for Scotland who've helped players in that pitch. And that was the second bit. I sat and had a beer in the bar after with Fraser Watts and Dougie Lockhart.
Yeah.
And it was as if they'd played. They were that proud of what we'd.
You now, I mean, I'm obviously somebody that's played Scotland, played Scotland with you as well, and I can completely understand what you're meaning there. What Dougie and Fraser would have been feeling. I felt the same at that point. It was like, you always strive to want to do these things as a Scottish internationalist on the pitch. I didn't quite get to achieve that type of heights of doing it against a test playing nation. But I have to say, equal enjoyment watching you do it.
Absolutely. And
watching the boys get over the line. It really was such a special moment.
It's a lot of the sacrifices that people have made before us. Obviously, we're in a position now where we've got more full-time contracts. Yeah. But there would have been players who would have given up holidays not that long ago.
Not that long ago,
yourself, giving up holidays, giving up time with their families to come and play for Scotland, and then when we come into the Scotland side as young players, they're there to help you.
Yeah.
And without those steps, then I don't think we go professional. I don't think we then have the ability to practice the way we do now, and focus on those 1%ers, because you've got time to, because you're professional, because you're allowed to train a little bit better. I mean,
only 10 years ago, we were out in South Africa and we were this close to losing ODI status.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could also say Afghanistan were in the same tournament and look where they've gone.
Exactly. No,
So,
absolutely.
I mean, I'm not, just because we've beaten England, I'm not one just to say that's it and let's pack our bags and.
No.
And I think it's really important that we find a way of capitalising on that, and going and winning some associate tournaments. I think that's really important for us. But those were some of the things I remember from the day, just sitting with people who'd helped us in our career, and the pitch invasion, and seeing guys running around without the tops on from the crowd, and
some of which you probably would have been familiar with, some guys that you probably knew from certain clubs and stuff like that.
And knocking into people, I can't remember who they were because everybody was in your face, and you recognise a face, and they jump on you, and I mean that's brilliant, and that's a moment that is important that we try and capture and we try and build on it. Can't be the last full member we meet. It's got to be the.
Well, I think the challenge. I think the challenge now should be, obviously we're living through difficult times, and you know, who knows how much cricket there's going to be this summer. Obviously, as you probably heard, Scotland it's a no-go. We're not going to be playing it, and the leagues and the cups have been cancelled. Maybe some T20 at the end, but the goal, like you're saying, should be to win an associate tournament. Next chance we get to qualify for any sort of World Cup. And I guess my challenge to you as your friend and somebody that has played with you will be that I want to see you score 100 against a test playing nation in a World Cup and get Scotland over the line to win a game. And that should. And I'd love to. I think the core of players that are still together. Talking to Kyle, he still seems like he's full of life. A couple more years left in him yet. That should be the ultimate now. I mean, what we did that day was phenomenal. But I believe that 2015 World Cup, like you say, if that team goes and plays in that now, I reckon you would feel a lot more confident about maybe getting over the line. So now if we can go on and play in a World Cup and down the line, it'd be interesting to see how we get on, because the Irish have kind of just tipped us, let's be honest, in the World Cups. They've beaten some big test playing nations at World Cups.
There's nothing to hide about. The reason that Afghanistan and Ireland are test playing nations now is because of what they've done. And they started in the journey that we're on, and we're on it, and like we've got a new coaching staff who've come in, and they are very, very much pushing us in the same way. They want us to step up, and they want us to play in a fashion that allows us to go and play like this. So it's not. I'm not saying we're not doing it. I'm just saying it's important that we keep doing it, and we, as much as it's brilliant to, and we'll always have the memory of the England day. I think that's important that certainly from the players and the organisation we capture that and we build on it.
No, absolutely. I know it's been a pleasure, Calum. I've got a couple of quick questions for you before we finish up. Just a bit of fun, but just from me to you, you know, I want to say it's been a pleasure talking to you after quite a long period of time. I can't remember the last time I probably caught up with you, and to hear your thoughts.
Probably giving you a send off.
Yeah, probably were giving me a send off, and then I'll probably give you a few choice words. But we always had a love-hate relationship. I've got 5 questions for you. My first question is, who's the best cricketer you've ever played against?
Jack Callis.
Jack Callis. No, he's not too bad.
Got to be one of the best 2 all-rounders of all that's ever played the game.
I would have thought so.
He could be a batter, he could be a bowler, he could be a fielder. I mean, the guy's stats.
Didn't have a weak link, did he? You wouldn't say he was weak, stronger in either way. I mean, he was a quality bowler. Probably, I would say I enjoyed watching him bat more. But
absolutely.
He was equally a very, very good bowler for South Africa as well. Okay, who is the best player you have shared a changing room with?
Oh, good question. Do I have to have played with him?
Well, if you shared the changing room with
Shared
him.
the changing room. I didn't play.
Oh, is this
Kumar Sangakkara. He twice. Once when I was really young at Warwickshire, didn't get. I was nowhere near the team, so I got nowhere near playing with him. And he came and played at Durham as well, but I was out the team at that point, so I missed him twice.
That counts. If you were in the squad and you were in the changing room, then that counts. And he's not a bad player to have played with. Okay, who's the best Scotland player that you've played with?
Kyle.
Yeah.
Phenomenal.
It kind of seems to be the same answer across the board.
I mean,
Magic gave me that answer. Sapian gave me that answer. So it's across the board. Who's the best bowler you've ever played against or ever faced?
Sunday, I said James Anderson. Absolutely brilliant. Skill level. Just what was coming out of the hand, I had no idea. Every time I've played against him, he's got me out as well. There's been some good bowlers. Yeah,
no, his speak for itself. I'm sure he played against many good bowlers, but you're right. His skill level, he's a smart bowler.
Philander was equally it just seemed to happen really quick.
Yeah.
Even though it's not coming.
Even though they're not that quick.
The speed gun might only say 82, 83, but it feels like your feet are not, well, my feet probably were nowhere with the red ball, but it just felt like
dancing on ice. They've made you dance on ice a little bit.
Yeah, just surviving as opposed to batting.
Yeah. And my last question is, who's your best mate in cricket? Who's your favourite? I'm sure you've got many good mates, but who's?
Yeah, I've been roommates with Crossy and since he first came into the squad. So we spent a lot of time, and he was obviously down in Kent at the same time as I was. He was a groomsman at my wedding, so we spent a lot of time together.
Nice. I've got him on. I'm actually recording with him tomorrow, so I'll pass on the love there. I'm sure he already knows how fond you are of him.
He is incredibly moody. Don't tell him I said that.
All right. Okay. Well, listen, Calum, it's been quality, mate. It's been fun. I'm glad you answered your phone and you didn't completely stand up after being late. It's been brilliant to talk to you.
Thanks for having me on, and I hope everything goes well with what you're doing. It's been really interesting to hear what people have had to say. Like you said, you've got a few big names coming up, so I'll be sitting down and listening to what they've got to say.
Please do. I guess what I've asked you at the end of this episode, and I've asked all the players, is if you could just put out a little tweet for me with my name, just to suggest that people give me a little follow and have a watch of my episodes. I'm obviously trying to grow the audience a little bit, so that would be really appreciated. I've kind of put you on the spot now. You've got to do it, Calum.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, of course I will. That's been good. Been excellent.
Thank you very much, Calum. You take care of yourself, and I hope to catch up with you at some point after all this time passes.
Excellent.